Since her rework a couple of weeks ago, Irelia has become one of the most popular top laners in the game. But most people are still playing her like classic Irelia, meaning go top, rush Trinity Force, and scale. But what we're actually seeing in top elo Irelia players is way more interesting. Tiamat rush Irelia, mid Irelia, and even a bit of AP mid Irelia. So forget the boring old Trinity Force rush for a bit and let's see how players around the world are making the new Irelia shine.
The dance begins.
Haha, check this out.
TF Blade, Wickd, and Wickd are all playing Irelia in high elo consistently, and none of them are building Sheen or Phage first. Instead, they get an early Tiamat. But why? The answer is wave clear. Having better wave clear means higher lane priority, which allows you to roam more effectively and create pressure around the map. If you're always shoved in, it's hard to match opponent movements or help the rest of your team.
Hang on.
However, this isn't 100% necessary and is very much a stylistic choice. Many high elo Korean solo queue players still prefer rushing Trinity Force for the earlier power spike. Irelia is a popular top laner for a lot of reasons. She's a strong duelist, has a lot of mobility, and her playstyle revolves around being able to extend trades in long lanes to make full use of Q resets and Ionian Fervor. But even with all those qualities, pros like Faker and Bjergsen are playing her mid. She has good burst potential and the mobility to get on squishier mid champions, especially with good flawless duet setups. Irelia can leave the first blade in one of the side lane brushes, in the cliffs behind them, or just next to her tower before going in. Using low health minions to dash and cover ground, she can surprise her opponent with a second E-blade, activating the stun and get a Q reset. On top of that, Irelia's W damage reduction greatly helps with protecting her from burst mages and assassins. These champions usually have their damage concentrated in a quick rotation, which means a timely W can negate a ton of incoming damage. The build is largely the same as top lane Irelia, but Ignite is used for higher assassination potential against squishy opponents. In matchups where the poke is too hard to handle, switching to teleport can help her get through a harder early game. Rune-wise, Conquer is by far the most popular option in both mid and top lane. However, Press the Attack remains as a viable alternative. Press the Attack works best in the early game against non-tank ranged matchups where trades are shorter and the extra damage does more for Irelia. With that said, most players are still taking Conqueror. This is because once Irelia has moved to a split pushing role in the side lane, she's able to keep Conqueror up with more ease as she's hitting turrets, pushing waves, or just fighting in the minion wave. True damage is always going to be good, regardless if your opponent is a tank or squishy. Okay, now let's get even crazier. AP mid Irelia played by ex-LCS player Pepinero. Peppy takes advantage of the big AP ratios in Irelia's kit. Her E and R do magic damage that scales with AP, and even though her W does physical damage, both its damage and the damage reduction scale with ability power. With 500 AP and W maxed, Irelia can reach 100% damage reduction. He maxes E first as it's his main magic damage ability, followed by W to increase the damage reduction, leaving Q for last. Instead of Press the Attack or Conquer, he uses Electrocute with Sorcery as his secondary tree, maximizing burst damage. And as for the build, Proto Belt, Lichbane, Deathcap, Void Staff, and Sorcerer's Shoes are his go-to.
Shall we?
Lichbane is essential to AP Irelia as it'll add to her burst and apply with her Q, Blade Surge. Hitting R and E will give Q resets, allowing you to apply multiple Lichbane procs on one target. Being able to hit R is also critical for AP Irelia to work, as it's a big portion of her burst combo. With high base damage and a 70% AP ratio on both the initial damage and also the pass-through damage, it means that if AP Irelia catches out a straggler, she can quickly burst them down with E and R. And that's how Irelia is being played around the world. Between top and mid, tankier and glass cannon, and AD and AP, the newest rework in League of Legends has introduced a lot of new ways to play the Blade Dancer.
For more League interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.